So I'm gonna totally fish while we're talking today on this podcast. So I appreciate you joining me, and I want to make sure I'm in frame here and I'm not too far away to where I'm screaming at the camera.
Welcome to Dan's podcast, Fly Fishing and Stuff. Fun fact about FlyFishDan. Dan finds mowing the lawn therapeutic, so much so that I'm banned from doing it for him.
And now here's the man, FlyFishDan.
Sweet. All right, thank you so much for joining me on episode 7 of Fly Fishing and Stuff. And you know, it's such a beautiful evening out and there's fish cruising around. I'm gonna do a little fishing while we're talking. And we're gonna talk today about gear. Now, we went through kind of the basics of what you wanna have in your gear bag and some of the different things you could have, right? You could have a sling pack like I have. This is something that I prefer. Just, it's a little more ergonomic, right? I can hang my net off of it. It's comfortable. Doesn't pull down on your shoulders like a fly vest will. A backpack, right now if I had a backpack, if I wanted to do any change up, there's no way I can do it, right? All I'd have to do here is flip down my little O-Pros, swing the pack around, everything is right here. I mean, completely accessible. That's why I use a sling pack and not a backpack, because there's no way I could do that and change something up quickly or grab some forceps or maybe something that I might need if I'm using a backpack. So I use a sling pack. And there's a vest you can use, and you know, they're like fanny packs, but I noticed you can't really put too much in them. I use that for saltwater fishing because I don't have as many flies as freshwater, but I like having a lot of options. So I'm fishing one of my favorite lakes, and what's cool is that you can see how big this lake is. I've got this entire thing to myself. I mean, all to myself. And today we're going to talk about some of the other gear that you need for fly fishing. So the first and most obvious, oh, and I should start off by saying, so I do have some affiliation with some of the brands that we're going to talk about. I'm a pro ambassador for, and if you guys are listening to this audio-wise, I just hooked into a fish. So pardon the noise, and I must try to stay focused. That fish is pulling. Oh, there's another fish right by it too. Oh my God. Come on, dude. So I do have some sponsorships and affiliations. So if you support me on some of the gear that we're going to talk about today, or if you buy it, you're supporting me and you're also supporting the organization. So thank you. And I just want full disclosure, right? I get paid a small commission, doesn't cost you anything, comes directly from the manufacturer. And then of course you're supporting, in a lot of cases, a family-owned company. So the first thing I want to talk about, you know, why don't we talk about this right here, this net, since I'm literally netting a fish. So this net, JD and Bailey out of South Carolina make this net, and this net is made out of bamboo, and I absolutely love this net. My wife found this net for me. She actually found it on Etsy. You want to see the fish? All right. It's a nice fish. If you can't see it, it's probably 17 inches or so. Look at that. Nice fish. So my wife originally found this net on Etsy. It's a bamboo net. I love the handle, right? Nice, robust handle. The firing on it is beautiful. These things are strong. Bamboo, I did a little Google search on bamboo. It has a higher compression strength than concrete. This thing is bulletproof. A lot of people, when they first see the bamboo, they say, oh, it could break. No, this thing is tough and flexible. Bamboo is just a wonderful wood that's going to last you a long time, unless you drop it somewhere or lose it, you know, off your pack, which has happened to me once. I don't want to talk about it. But this bamboo net, Hellbender nets, they have a lot of different sizes. This one's one of my favorites. Super lightweight. I mean, it's very lightweight. You know, this little lanyard, I use that. We'll talk about the lanyard too. This lanyard is actually for a wading staff. I wanted something that had some pulling power so it keeps the net up. So I use a wading staff lanyard. So if you're looking for a good lanyard for a net that helps keep the net up, get the Sims lanyard for a wading staff. It's got plenty of pull power. But you can see the webbing. You can get the webbing in black, and it's that, you know, kind of rubberized webbing as well, so it's easy on the fish. You can get it in clear. Now I've had it in both clear and black. I switched to black because I fish a ton. right? And I found that the clear starts to discolor. It becomes a little more opaque, I guess you can say. So it looks more used over time. The black doesn't do that because, it's black, so it doesn't really age. So I kind of like the looks of this anyway with the fired wood. I'll give you kind of a close look at it. It's just a beautiful net. This little copper piece right here goes clean through the handle and then connects with the rest of the net. If you've ever had a net, and Kobe can attest to this, he lost his net on the Yakima River because his wooden net, that little screw came undone, fell off his lanyard, he didn't notice it, and it was gone. So having that continuous copper is great. They're not expensive, right? They're more expensive than what you're gonna find in Walmart, or if you find in North 40, something like that. You can get a net in there for probably around $85 to $100. These are gonna cost about $150 on up. Sometimes they go on sale, but it's one of those heirloom pieces, right? You're gonna have this net for a very long time. And this thing has great fishing karma. I've caught so many friggin' fish with this net. It's just netted some lifetime memory type of fish. Let me get a drink of water. So I've had a partnership with Hellbender now for a couple years. They're just great people. Just one guy making these nets, JD, and he just does a beautiful job. So every net that you order from Hellbender is original and it's made for you. So it's pretty cool. So I would definitely check out Hellbender nets. Now the next thing we want to talk about, and I think we kind of started but then stopped when I hooked into a fish, is my lines. Sometimes that happens. It ever happened to you? Kind of wraps around your rod and you don't notice it right away? Well, that happened to me. So it's what I'm wearing. And so I do have a partnership. I'm a pro ambassador for Drift, and I discovered Drift now just about a year ago. And I was looking for, I've owned a lot of different types of waders. I've had Hodgman, was one of the first waders I had. I had a pair of Frog Dogs. I owned Sims for 10 years, and they're a great wader. And then I just wanted to, it was time for me to get another pair of waders. I needed to get a zip wader as well. And I'm looking at some of the other brands, and they were $1,000. And it was just like, my God, that is just like so freaking expensive for waders. And when you fish like I do, I find I was getting probably 5 years out of a pair of waders before I had to start doing some patchwork. That's not terrible when you consider how much I fish. But to drop $1,000 plus tax, that's brutal. It's like right here, like literally, look, there's hardly any line out. This fish just came up and grabbed it. But, I wanted something that was quality, that wasn't going to break the bank, and it's just a ton of money. So I had some friends who own Drift, and Mark is one of them, and some other people that I follow on social media also own Drift. They're like, you love these things. You should really give them a try. So I reached out to Sam and Nick, and I said, hey, and I proposed a partnership. And it's been just a great relationship because, I try to support family-owned companies. I'm only going to support brands that I believe in. I had never owned Drift before, but I had friends that owned them for years, and I trust those guys. I'm never going to align myself with any brand that I don't trust. And I'm going to be transparent with you if I ever have any problems as well. So, no problems with Drift. They've been a great wader. Let's see if I can get this fish in. And the great thing about Drift is that, that pair of zip waders, a lot of times they'll go on sale. They're about $5.99 regularly. Sometimes you can get them for $50 off. You can save a little money by using my coupon code, by the way. It's a nice fish. That guy. Sweet. You can save a little money by using my coupon code FlyFishDan. But they've got the Pro Zip, right? I will never not have another pair of zip waders. They're so easy to get in and out of. I mean, especially when you start getting a little bit older, a little less flexible, being able to unzip them, to take care of business if you have to use the bathroom, and even just taking them off and taking them on or putting them on, it's so little effort. The zip, I just absolutely love the Pro Zip waders. Now they are breathable. They've got 4 plies down below, 3 plies on top, so they're super durable. But if you're really getting into fly fishing, you're gonna need a pair of waders, and I stand behind Drift. But there's a lot of other brands out there to choose from. But You know, every single person that I've referred to at Drift has had a very good experience, a great experience. Just look online. I mean, there are so few companies today that have products that are consistently rated at 5. I mean, that's really unheard of today. And you can get the same quality as those super expensive brands for, you know, 40% less, 45% less, sometimes 60% less, and you're getting the same quality. So why not? Anyway, so they also have wading pants, right? Another accessory that you can get. I love these wading pants. I mean, right now it's 75 degrees. Even breathable waders, you're going to be roasting in breathable waders. That's just the way it is in the summertime. So having these wading pants, I mean, what a great accessory to have, right? Because if you live in the Pacific Northwest, and actually most places in the world, you know, in the morning time it's going to be a little chilly. Unless you live in Florida. In the evening time, it's going to be a little chilly. So wet wading, a lot of times you're freezing your butt off if you're wearing, you know, just regular pants or hiking pants. So wearing these, you stay cool during the heat and you stay warm because you're not standing in 50-some degree water. So they're a very nice accessory to have and something you want to consider. So next thing you got to consider are wading boots, right? So I don't have an agreement with corkers. I bought a ton of corkers. My wife has a pair, Kobe has a pair, I've got a pair. Now recently it's not really a sponsorship, but they know I wear corkers, so I was looking for a new pair, Dark Horse, and they provided me with these pairs of Dark Horse and wanted me to try the BOA system. And I absolutely love it. I mean, the BOA system, and now, I mean, it's so great, right? Not to have to tie laces. It's not as bad in the summertime. Laces weren't too much of a pain in the butt. But during the winter time, trying to untie frozen laces, forget it. With the BOA system, you just unclip it and it just pulls apart. Taking my boots off has never been easier. So, and corkers, you know, what's great about corkers is that it's like having 3 or 4 boots in one. To be able to have interchangeable soles, right? If you want to just do the rubber soles and you don't need a lot of traction. Like, I could have probably got away with rubber soles here, but I was too lazy to change them, so I still have my felts on. You can have felts with little cleats in them. Regular felts. There's a fish like right here. I'm gonna see if I can catch it. But you can have regular felts on. There's just a lot of interchange, right? And there's some stuff or language online, you know, people have talked about, you know, they fall off. So I've had 2 instances where they fell off. One, because I was didn't have, you know, the back clipped on. So I got into some really sticky mud. I want to face you so you can hear me. I got into some really sticky mud and I had one pull off. Now I had another one recently pull off, but what ended up happening is I somehow damaged the toe. So the orange forks weren't digging in all the way into the boot. So if I stepped into something sticky, they would come off. But I have never had a situation to where, you know, I've got, you know, the gear's in good shape and it's fallen off, you know, on a river or something like that. It doesn't happen. And having that interchangeable portion, you know, that sole is super, super convenient to have. So corkers have, and there are a lot of other different boots out there, but corkers is something I've been using now for over 10 years and I trust them. They're great. They have a good fit. I wish I would have got the River Ops though, because Kobe got the River Ops and they have just a little more ankle support. I thought maybe they'd have too much ankle support. The Dark Horse is good. It's good ankle support. I've climbed some hills and without any problems, but you know, just from what Elke described on his River Ops and Kobe describes, you know, I probably should have gone with the River Ops just because I do a lot of hiking and it's just nice to have, you know, that just a ton of ankle support. And from what I understand, those things are just like super rock solid when it comes to the ankle support. The sun's going down, so hopefully the lighting is still good. All right, so what else? So we talked about the net, the lanyard, the gear bag. We talked about waders, wading boots. We already went through the bag, right? We can talk, if we, you know, let me know down in the comments if you want me to really do an in-depth dive of fly boxes. I mean, you know, there are a lot of different fly boxes out there. Fish Pond has one. I kind of like the ones that are deeper, so they're not squishing your flies. But if you want to hear or have me do like a video on YouTube about fly boxes, I'm certainly willing to dive into it. But you know, it seems like it might be kind of boring, so I won't talk anymore about that. So let's look what else I've got on, right? So now I put a standard wading belt, so you can have different wading belts. This comes with a neoprene wading belt and also a kind of a fiber wading belt. But I ended up switching this. I have my own custom belt on here. It's a big leather belt because I really need to be able to cinch that sucker down. If I'm carrying my sidearm, that's a lot of weight when I have my Opro's rod holder and a sidearm on one hip. It has a tendency to pull down, right? So if I have a nice stout leather belt, that doesn't happen. But you know, if you're not going to be carrying anything, neoprene belts are very comfortable. The fabric belts are a little more secure. Because why do you want to wear a belt? You want to wear a belt because the inevitability of you falling in, it's going to happen. I know, nobody wants to talk about it, but it's going to happen. You're going to fall in. Having that belt around your waist helps keep the water out. It's not going to keep the water completely out of your waders, but if you fall in a fast, raging river and you don't have a belt on, your waders are just going to balloon up super quick, and it's going to be really tough to get up, right? So I went fishing with a friend of mine in Montana, and he fell, and he had a brand new pair of waders on. Didn't really have, I don't think he had the belt on, but I look back and he is just, you know, he is hands down in the river. The water is rushing into his waders. His waders are completely ballooned out, and he was in trouble. So I dropped everything and I ran over to him, and I couldn't pick him up. I mean, there was so much weight from the current, just, you know, keeping him down on the river, and his chin literally was on the top of the river. So I ended up having to reach down and I unzipped his waders. Thank goodness he had the zip waders, which gave me enough leverage to be able to lift him up. But he was like a giant marshmallow man, and he had so much water in his waders. And if you have a good belt and it's securely tightened, that wouldn't have happened. You could pop back up pretty quick, and you know, you're not going to fill up with water and potentially get yourself in trouble. So wear a wading belt. There is a safety reason why you should have a wading belt on. So another accessory I have, and you know, there was a time that I was affiliated with them, and then just, you know, my full-time job gets in the way, and for me really to try to support a manufacturer at a level to where, you know, I'm like repping the brand in a sales capacity, it just is too tough, right? I got a very demanding job, and I'd rather spend my time fishing. But these guys, Opros, Outdoor Professionals, I know one of the brothers, Dave, he's a good guy, family owned, 3 brothers own this out of Wisconsin. They really have made an accessory that I use all the time. I mean, you saw, well, when you look back on this video, you'll notice that there was an opportunity. I was fishing a dry, and the fish, you know, ignored it. So I quickly changed over to the rod that I had sitting on this Opro's rod holder with a completely different setup. Now, granted, I didn't catch the fish, but often when I'm able to do a quick change up like that, you know, I'm catching the fish because I could have 2 completely different setups and 2 completely different weights, right? This is a 3 weight that I have on my Opro's holder, and I'm fishing a 5 weight. To be able to just switch back and forth is super fun. I love being able to do that. I mean, and it's super easy too. In fact, wouldn't that be funny if I can catch a fish on the dry? That'd be kind of fun. I caught one today on the dry. I'm using a big old Chernobyl ants, but it's super easy. So let me just show you how easy this is. So I just reeled in my line, right? So I've got my sparkle minnow here, and on this rod, I've got a dry. Just put it between my legs, clip it in, put the little bungees around it, and voila, I put it on my non-casting side. Rarely, right, I've got it, I've caught my line on it if I'm trying to cast and the wind's kind of going over my casting shoulder. That is the only time I've ever had a problem with it. So it is just super convenient to have 2 setups. And even if you don't want to have 2 setups, you can use this as a rod holder. So you're setting your rod here and tending to your line instead of setting it on the ground or trying to hold it between your legs. It's a nice place to put your rod if you've got to work on your gear. So that is another accessory that it's one of those that I think, I don't know how I've lived without it for so long. It's certainly made my life a lot more easier and a lot more convenient when it comes to fly fishing, and especially having a second setup with me. Just ask my friends, James Owen. He was fishing one of our favorite rivers, had 2 rods, didn't have this, sent one of the rods down. He's fishing probably, I don't know, 100 yards away, from his rod, no one else around. Another fly fisherman comes into the hole, looks at his rod sitting in the ground. James says, "Hey, that's mine, it's my rod." He picks it up and leaves with it. Just took his rod, reel, gone. And I mean, not that that's going to happen all the time. It was pretty sad that it did happen, but it happens, right? So by having this third-hand rod holder, that's never going to happen to you, like ever again. So that's kind of the convenience factor when it comes to having this extra rod holder. So that'd be an accessory that I would say that you would need. The next accessory that you need, and I think we talked a little bit about it when I talked about the gear bag, is sunglasses, right? You want a good pair of sunglasses. So I had another company reach out to me, Redfin, and provided me with these glasses, and they're solid glasses. Polarized glasses can be so expensive, as you know, but it's important to get a good pair. I do like these. They have a bigger lens, so it kind of, completely captures the entire image. You're not seeing frames. I've had a couple instances where they were fogging up when I was working hard, hiking, and just the sweat perspiration caused a little fogging. But all in all, they've been really good glasses. They haven't scratched. I don't wear like a cork or anything. I just keep them in the case just because I don't like stuff dangling off my neck, especially since typically I have that chest mount that I'm using for filming. And by the way, people have asked me about that, so I completely modified a GoPro chest mount. It's too hard to fish a dry fly when I'm trying to talk to you. But this is a GoPro chest mount, and I found it's an iPhone tripod, and I basically took the top off. It has this little spring clip that holds my phone. So I even had to put some like zip ties at the base of it because my phone wanted to kick out on occasion, because if I'm fishing a river or on a flow tube, right, I don't want that thing kicking out when I'm fishing, because then I don't have a phone anymore. So that would end the video really quick. So it's basically just a modified GoPro chest mount with an iPhone type of tripod holder. So they don't sell it. I literally made it. All right, so what are some of the other accessories, right? One of which, and you should take care of this, one of which I'm wearing right now. So I had a sun shirt from Simms. I still have it. It's just getting kind of worn out. I wore it so much and having to wash it, some of the lettering had washed off, and it's just starting to look a little old. So my wife picked me up some new sun shirts. These are super comfortable, right? They keep the sun off you without baking you, and when the sun goes down, it gives you a little bit of warmth. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to be fishing in the sunny elements, wear a sun shirt. Right? They've got a little, things to where you can keep it above your hand. You just don't have to cake yourself up with sunscreen. It's got a nice hood right here as well, so in case I want to completely get out of the sun. It's even got a buff that I can put here as well. So this, I can't remember where it's from. It's right here, that emblem. My wife got it for me. But they're super comfortable, and one of the reasons why she chose this brand is because it has long sleeves. So being tall, a lot of XL shirts don't have long enough sleeves for me. And then if I go 2X, 3XL, it starts to get huge in the body, and then that's the only way I can get the sleeve length. So there's only a few brands that we've been able to find, this being one of them, that fits well in the body, but then also fits well on the sleeve, because I cannot stand anything that has short sleeves. It drives me nuts. So So that's something you want to get as well. Typically what I'm wearing underneath my waders, I don't wear sweats because, they don't breathe very well. Just not very comfortable by the end of the day. What's really worked well for me is I've got a hiking pant, and it's just a basic hiking pant like from REI. The same kind of, breathable, wicking type of hiking pant. I wear those underneath my waders. Right now, I've got hiking pants underneath these waders. They're just super comfortable, and your legs are breathing, right? These are breathable waders as well. So I just find that to be super comfortable. So that's something that's worked for me over the years is, that was a terrible cast, is using a hiking pant. All right, so what other accessories do I have? So I do have, my sling pack that I bring with me, but I do have a gear bag as well. So I've had this, there's a story behind the gear bag, and I'll tell you the horror story here after I tell you what gear bag I have. So I had a gear bag, which was great, and then I had to buy another gear bag, and I bought a Sims gear bag, and it's one of their bigger gear bags. So I have that. Typically, that's kind of my, stuff that I've stocked up on. So I've got some tapered leaders in there. I've got extra rolls of tippet. I've got some fly boxes that, might be seasonal or for salmon. So I kind of use that as my central hub. So where all my gear is in. And then when I'm going on a fishing trip, I'll fill my sling pack with what I need. So I've got, enough tapered leaders in here. I got a sink tip in here. I've got 5X, 4X, and 3X tippet, extra rolls. I've got some fluorocarbon in there as well. So, but you're going to run out, right? So I try to stock up on that stuff. And then I just kind of keep it all centralized in my gear bag. And it's also when I'm traveling, I've got my sling pack and my gear bag. So once you start collecting a lot of stuff, you're going to want to kind of keep it organized. So I've got that extra gear bag. So the story behind it, so it's terrible. So we went camping in Montana. It was myself, Amy, and Kobe. And, we had the Jeep packed, right? So we were tent camping. And, we bring a sidearm with us when we go into Montana. So we're about in Kellogg, Idaho on our way back. And Amy said, hey, did you remember to pack the gun? And I was like, oh, crap. I don't remember if I did. So, I just wanted to stop and check. So I stopped. And again, we're cubed out, right? Literally cubed out. There's not a square centimeter, a cubic centimeter in that Jeep that wasn't packed. So I put my gear bag up on the roof because I need to go through my duffel bag that was underneath it. So I'm rifling through the duffel bag and hoping I find it, and sure enough I find it. I'm like, oh, found it. We're good. Close the door, get back in the Jeep, and I drove home. So there's a step I missed there. There was a step that I missed. And the step that I missed was bringing my gear bag back in the Jeep. And even worse, I didn't even realize it until days later. Oh, I want to go fishing. And, I lost it. I want to go fishing, and I don't have a gear bag. It's gone. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you could probably relate, right? That in that moment, days later, I think it might have been almost a week later, when I'm looking in my fishing room for my gear bag and I don't see it, when it dawned on me what had happened and where I knew it was, oh God, it's like if you would have punched me in the stomach, it would have felt better. If you would have punched me twice in the stomach as hard as you could, it would have felt better. I had that horrifying, sinking realization. I mean, literally, I'm sick that that's what I did. In fact, I mean, my wife, she's just a wonderful human being and supports me like nobody else could. She says, let's get in the rig and go and see if we can find it, because we knew exactly where it was, where we stopped off. So we drove our butts all the way back to Kellogg and went to the same spot that I dropped it, and we walked up and down that ramp, just hoping that it fell off the Jeep and maybe in the shoulder in the long grass. but we spent probably an hour and a half looking for it. Couldn't find it. And, I had a business card in there. So, whoever found it could have called me, but they didn't. So somebody got, and if you consider, gotta heard voices. So if you consider how much gear costs, you know how much stuff I've got, right? 15 fly boxes, tapered leaders. I mean, it's everything. I didn't have any reels in there, thank God. But somebody got probably about 10 grand worth of stuff. So I literally outfitted somebody for life. But man, I tell you, this some of the stuff that I left behind is just like head scratchers first to me. And it's just because I get excited, whatever, get distracted. I did something again the next year, Montana again. So we're fishing one of our rivers that we love to fish in Montana, the Clark Fork. And I don't know how this happened, but I got in a rush. It was Kobe and I. And, I put my rod up, I leaned it against something. And I had a couple rods with me. So I put everything away, and it was getting late. We had to get home. So I take off, and it was probably halfway home. I realized that I didn't grab my 4-weight. So I got a 4-weight TCR with a Hardy reel on it that I left on the bank. I was just like, what is happening? First, I leave my gear bag on top of the Jeep and lose that. And now I leave my Sage TCR on the side of the shore. So I immediately called Joe Cantrell. So there's one fly shop. I figured, maybe somebody turned it in. Maybe I'll get lucky and somebody turned it in. So I called the fly shop. Joe answers the phone. And I said, hey, Joe. I said, I was just fishing, down on the river. Kind of told him where. I said, is there any chance that somebody turned in a fly rod? And he goes, what does it look like? And so immediately I've got a little bit of hope. And I said, it's a Sage TCR. It's kind of a maroon color. It's got a Hardy reel, silver on it. And I even think I told him what fly had on it. Well, somebody turned it in. He had my fly rod. And of course that gave me, there's a fish right there. That gave me the excuse that I needed to go back to Montana to do a little fishing. But what's even cooler about this is, guess who found it? He's in the fly fishing world. Skip Morrison. He's like a professional fly tyer. He's written books on fly fishing. Skip Morris, check him out. He found my fly rod with a buddy of his, and they turned it in because he thought to himself, he's done things like that, and he wanted to be able to kind of pay that forward, good karma, and he turned it in. So Skip, good on you, man. Thanks so much for doing that. It just saved me from another horrifying mistake. And I haven't made a mistake like that, knock on wood, knock on something. I haven't made a mistake like that in a long time. So I don't know, I got to pay attention more, right? Definitely. But yeah, so that was just a horrifying moment. Okay, so what else? While I'm fishing here, I mean, I should kind of do a check of all the stuff, right? That's pretty much everything I've got. I think the other thing that you're gonna wind up doing, especially if you just started fly fishing, I'd be interested to know, if you're listening to this on YouTube, let me know down in the comments, how many fly rods do you own, right? And I think I'm gonna call this too, like, if you've gotten this far in the podcast, well, you're off the deep edge, right? You've made it, so thank you for sticking with me. I mean, we're into it now for 30 minutes, so thank you. But how many fly rods do you have? I have a lot. And what you're gonna find when you start getting kind of crazy passionate about this is that you're gonna start collecting rods. And it's not just for the sake of collecting rods, but once, your first fly rod really should be a 5-weight because it can cover almost every base, right? Whether it's bluegill, bass, trout, excuse me, trout fishing. The fly rod, 5-weight fly rod is kind of the everything fly rod. But pretty soon you're going to want to get a 3-weight, right? Because maybe you're fishing smaller streams or you just want that little lighter action. Then maybe you start doing something a little bigger, sea run cutthroat or small salmon. You want a 6-weight, right? Because you need a little more punching power. Then maybe you're going after some really big salmon, or you're going to Alaska, or maybe you're going bone fishing or something like that. Well, now you're going to need an 8 or a 9-weight. Well, then maybe you're out here fishing these super, aggressive cutthroat, and you want to have a nice sinking tip, but you don't want to put it on your 5-weight. So maybe a good in-between rod, throwing a big heavy line like that, is a 7-weight. And then pretty soon, then maybe you're going to want a custom rod, right? You want to see what bamboo is like, and you might reach out to somebody like Neil Fox, who makes awesome bamboo rods. No affiliation, by the way. He and I are just friends, and he's made a couple of rods for me, which is pretty darn cool. He did make that bamboo for me. I was super stoked about that. Just a beautiful piece of art. So if you're local and you're looking for a guy that is fastidious and really knows his craft, Neil knows how to make a fly rod. I mean, wow. So nothing in it for me if you buy one. He did make mine for me so I could fish with it and talk about it. So thank you again, Neil. But it's a great fly rod. I absolutely love it. So you might want to get a bamboo rod because, well, you want a bamboo rod. And that's something too, you can hand down to your kids, and then their kids can hand down to their kids. So there's just a different feel, right? When you first start casting bamboo, it feels, fly rods are so lightweight and so perfectly balanced these days that, at first, when you first cast a bamboo rod, you're gonna think, my God, this thing is heavy, because it casts different. But what's incredible is when you get a fish on it, any size fish, that thing's bending down by the cork. There's so much flexibility in a bamboo rod. It's a whole different feel when you catch a fish on a bamboo rod. So it's gonna feel a little heavy when you cast it, but man, oh man, when you hook into a fish, all that weight just disappears, and it's so much fun to play a fish on a bamboo rod. So that's gonna be next, right? So what you'll end up doing is you're just gonna be buying a whole bunch of fly rods, and then you're gonna buy a whole bunch of fly reels, because if you have a bunch of fly rods, you're gonna need fly reels. And then you're gonna get sentimental like me, right? And you're gonna start trying to find some old school reels online. So I bought this off of eBay like 25 years ago. And no, I bought this one at the Morning Hatch, sorry. Morning Hatch. I bought the rod I got off of eBay because it was a model they didn't have anymore. But I've had this reel for a long time. But I've since bought some other bat and kills because I love that reel off of eBay. So now I'm looking for this one right here. This is a 3.4. I was looking for a 3.4 large arbor bat and kill. This is a 25-year-old reel that I was lucky enough to find a collector on eBay, and I probably paid twice as much than when they were selling new 25 years ago. But I just love the reel, and I also kind of love the nostalgia that goes behind it. But I've got the Click and Paw Colorado. That's a great reel. Lamson is no affiliation there, but they've got a fantastic reel. For a low price point, right? These are really nice reel. One of the reels I got for sea run cutthroat fishing is I got the liquid, and it was like under $100, and it's a great reel. And I've had Lamson for a lot of years. In fact, my 9-weight, which has been with me all over the world, I've caught so many fish on that Lamson large arbor. It's just been a bulletproof reel. So Lamson is a good reel. Hardy, I had that one Hardy. Typically, I'm not spending a ton of money. I was able to find that Hardy. There was a guy on eBay that was retiring, and this was back when eBay was mostly just normal people like us, not businesses or companies from who knows where selling stuff. But he wanted to find somebody that was passionate about fly fishing that he could sell his gear to, and he gave me a great price on it. So I have a Hardy. Kobe bought me a Hardy Marquee for my 4-weight G Loomis that I have. Love that reel. It's a Click and Paw. It just has a wonderful sound. And I know some people, they talk about, they don't like the click. Maybe they just think it's, sounds too egregious. Honestly, that sound, there's so much that goes into the sound of a fly reel, right? From when you're reeling it in to when a fish is screaming line off of it. That sound, I think, is it's classic. It's iconic. I love that sound, and I'll never take the clicker off my reels. I just absolutely love. Look, there's a big fish right here. Big fish. I'm gonna see if I can catch it. Turning him. See if I can catch him. There he is. Oh, no. Oh, I had him. He was literally right by my feet. That's crazy. Dang, that was a nice fish. Anyway, I love the sound of those reels. I mean, they're just a classic sound. So, I don't know. I've always enjoyed the click and paw because they're noisy, and when there's a fish on it, it just makes such a glorious sound. So, I have no problem with the sound of fly reels. I absolutely love it. So the louder the better, in my opinion. So what else? So fly line. You know, you're going to want to get a good fly line. You know, a lot of people, if you bought one of the setups, you know, that have the reel and the rod and the line, you're going to find that the line generally is not very good. It might last you a season. If you're having trouble with your casting, it's probably because of the fly line. It's either old. You know, I've had some people reach out to me, hey, I've got my dad's old setup or my grandpa's old setup. It just doesn't cast very well. That's because that line is probably dried up, cracked, just lost its integrity. They've gone, you know, there's been so many advancements on fly lines. And, you know, and it's one of the places I don't get stuck in the weeds, right? I let the guys at the fly shop tell me if I'm looking for something with power and not so much finesse, right? That's where I have the outbound short from Rio. That thing could bomb out a cast with very little effort. If I'm looking for something a little more delicate, right? I have the guys kind of tell me what I should get in grain weight and shooting head and that type of thing. So, but the shooting heads that are on fly lines today just are so much better than anything else out, you know, that are older on the marketplace. If you get a good fly line, and a lot of times the fly line can be more expensive than the reel itself. Good fly line is going to cost you $80 to $110. And take care of it too, right? Clean your fly line. This is kind of a salty lake. I'm going to be cleaning this whole fly line because I want it to last, right? Because a good fly line will last a good 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons. If you're stomping on it or getting it caught in the boat, things like that, it's not going to last very long. So take care of your fly line. And it'll take care of you. But man, oh man, and you could have the crappiest reel. You could have a $25 reel. But if you've got a good fly line, the whole experience is so much better. So invest in the fly line. Absolutely. And really, you know, I've covered a lot of gear. And it's starting to get dark. So I appreciate you joining me. And you know, if you're new to the podcast, you know, I'm going to be doing this often. I love talking fly fishing, and, you know, I'll probably look at having some people on and doing some collaborations, but right now it's just me talking fly fishing. So I appreciate you getting on the deep end with me all the way off the edge at the end of the podcast. And I'll leave a link to the playlist right up above here that you can check out some of the other podcasts that I've done. And yeah, right now they're just on YouTube. Maybe, you know, today I just don't have time to try to find, you know, put them on other sites. So right now they're just going to be on YouTube. But I appreciate you joining me today. So thank you. And let's see if I can catch another fish. How cool is it that I was literally catching fish while we're talking fly fishing? That's pretty damn cool. All right, well, I'll turn it off. Until the next time, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. Fish on.
Want to ask Dan a fly fishing question? You can do just that in the comments below on YouTube or good old-fashioned email. Send your question to flyfishdan@gmail.com.